What's up, One Youth? Welcome back to another week of our out-of-person services. I just want to say it has been an absolute privilege and honor to speak to you every week. I hope that soon we can get back in this building and we can be face-to-face again, and we can jump around and get crazy again. But for the time being, we're just being super safe, and I've been really enjoying speaking from my heart, and this is what I want to do again today with this message. And we're jumping back a little bit into the Old Testament, and we're going to be reading from this book, which is actually the first book in the Bible, and it's from the book of Genesis, and it's chapter 28, verses 10 through 19. And just follow along with me. It's 9 verses, but I'm going to try to skim through it pretty quick. And it says this: Jacob left Beersheba and set out for Haran. When he reached a certain place, he stopped for the night because the sun had set. He lost his headlights went out. So taking one of the stones there, he put it under his head and he laid down to sleep. He had a dream in which he saw a stairway resting on the earth with its top reaching to heaven. And the angels of God were ascending and descending on it. There above it stood the Lord, and he said, I am the Lord, the God of your father Abraham and the God of Isaac. I will give you and your descendants the land on which you are lying. Your descendants will be like the dust of the earth. So that's a lot, right? And you will spread out to the west and to the east, to the north and to the south. All peoples on earth will be blessed through you and your offspring. I am with you and will watch over you wherever you go. That's a really cool verse. I love that one. And I will bring you back to this land. I will not leave you until I have done what I have promised you. So when Jacob awoke from his sleep, he thought, surely the Lord is in this place, and I was not aware of it. He was afraid and said, how awesome is this place? This is none other than the house of God. This is the gate of heaven. So early the next morning, Jacob took the stone he had placed under his head, and he set it up as a pillar and poured oil on top of it. And he called that place Bethel, though the city used to be called Luz. What I want to talk to you about, this one's super short, I promise you it's super short, is finding something in the middle of nothing. Finding something in the middle of nothing. And the first thing I want to talk to you about today is finding it. Is finding it. And this whole kind of story, it stems from Jacob's parents kind of sending him away. He's like, hey, we don't want you to marry anybody here. We want you to go out and find a wife that'll be good for you, that'll be good for your family, good for what you want to do in life. So Jacob has been sent away, and he has been sent into a foreign land. And the thing that I got from this is that oftentimes when we're looking for something or when we're searching for something, oftentimes we are sent away. And sometimes this is brought back to our minds, or this is put into our knowledge of the situation. This is how we perceive a situation. We sometimes look at it as rejection. We sometimes look at it as not being completely accepted. We look at it in a way where it's actually negative and it actually harms us. But the thing that Jacob took from the situation is that he was sent away. He was pushed away. And a lot of times I feel like in our lives, we are sent away, or we are pushed away, or we are quote unquote rejected by the people that we thought were supposed to be in our corner, by the people we thought were supposed to be like our closest friends, and by sometimes even the people that we call family. And a lot of times when we're sent away, what we are doing is we're actually looking for something, whether we realize it or not. And the thing that I want to talk to you about super quick is how do we find it? How do we find it? Because most of the time we don't even necessarily know what we're looking for. But can I tell you this, is that oftentimes we look at our being sent away, we look at our quote unquote rejection, we look at these as terms, or we look at them as bullet points of things that disqualify us from what God wants for us. And so what we do is we give up. What we do is we stop looking. But can I tell you this today, man? Keep grinding, keep going, keep looking for something, because God has something for you. And for Jacob, it was in the middle of a desert, in the middle of the wilderness. And what he did, he was like, I'm walking and I'm sweating and, and I'm dehydrated. But what I'm doing is like, I was sent this way, so this is the way I'm going to keep walking. And I know a lot of times I feel like that in my life. I'm just like, man, I feel like I'm not getting any answers. I feel like I'm not getting any clarity. But God, this is the direction that you have sent me, so I'm going to keep walking. That's what faith is all about, right? That's what living a life like Jesus did is all about. It's like living and walking by faith. But sometimes we have an idea of what we're looking for. We have an idea of what we're trying to get. We have a goal of what we're trying to achieve. But oftentimes, that's not necessarily what God also has for us. So when we're finding something in the middle of nothing, our first objective is to find it. And sometimes I think all it takes is a little nap in the middle of the desert, just like Jacob did. And the second thing that I want to talk to you about today is really a question. What is something? What's something? And I want to point back to verse 14 where God is literally speaking to Jacob through his dream. And he says this, your descendants will be like the dust of the earth, and you will spread out all the way to the west and all the way to the east, all the way to the north and all the way to the south. All peoples on earth will be blessed through you and your offspring. And this is like a super iconic, this is a super huge moment through, at the beginning of really the Bible. And this is such a foreshadowing. If you don't know what that means, it's kind of a telling of the future of what's to come of Jacob's life, but really of what Israel was supposed to be, but also foreshadowing Jesus coming in because his life impacted people far beyond where he actually lived or what he lived, the time frame that he lived in. And can I tell you this, is that when we're looking for something, sometimes we have these aspirations and we have these goals, and that is so good. That is the passion that you have inside of you. That is what God has put in you. But can I tell you this, is that if you're wondering like what's going to be done with my life, what's going to become, like I feel like this is the goal that we should be striving for in this place or in our lives. And it's in verse 14 when it says, when you're going to have people come after you, they're going to be your offspring, it's going to be your kids, it's going to be your grandkids, it's going to be your nephews, your nieces, your friends, your family. It's going to be all these things. And like, this is like my goal in life. And like, I hope that it's yours too, is that when you have such a deep impact on them, that when they meet somebody else, that they also have a deep impact positively on that person that you may never meet. And like, this is like the whole goal of discipleship. This is the whole goal of Christianity, is to create disciples and to create relationships around people that you may never, or that you never thought that you could have ever had a relationship with. And the reality of it is that you can have a best friend, and somebody else could have a best friend, and that best friend is the only way, the only source to which that other person can receive Jesus. But it won't be through you, it will be through you loving that best friend, because that best friend is the only way to reach the person on the other side. And so what is this something? What does it look like to find something in the middle of nothing? What does it look like to walk through a desert and to have a goal in mind, and then to find something completely different than what you thought you were looking for? There's something in this place is God declaring a new revelation for your life, a new goal for your life. It's like, hey, like money and success is great, being famous is great, but I have more for you. Being the smartest person in your class is great. Being successful in your job is great, but I have something more for you. Being the coolest person in your family, being the funniest person at the table, like that's all great, but I have something more for you. You see, I have something that will last a generation, and will last a generation after that, and will bless all people, and not just the people in the present moment where you feel like your success is the greatest. And this is the last thing I want to talk to you about today. In the middle of nothing, in the middle of, I'm being like legitimately serious, in the middle of the desert, Jacob found something. He found a little place called Luz. And at the end of his dream, which was what it was, where he had heard God talk to him, he picked up a rock and he put it there and he anointed it and he said, this place is now going to be called Bethel. And so when I was reading this, I've seen older pastors do this, so I was like, I'm going to do it this time because I'm going to sound really cool and really smart. And I looked up the Hebrew word or the root words from where Luz and Bethel came from. And now this is crazy because the Bible is so symbolic, but it's also just so relevant because it makes so much sense to today. And so when I looked up Luz, it is defined as being twisted. So like a twisty tie, yeah. But it was taken from the verb lose, which is the same exact word, which actually means to turn away from. So this whole city of Luz, its whole life, it was defined as being a place which turned away from something. Maybe it turned away from the sun. Maybe it turned away from battles. Maybe it turned away from advancing their city or whatever it might be. But it kept turning away from something. And so when Jacob came here, he was like, I know this city Luz and I know what it's known for, but what I experienced here is actually something different. What I experienced in a place of death and desolation, I actually experienced the living God. I experienced the person who has put me in this place. And so what he did is he went into a dead place and he renamed it Bethel. And can I tell you what Bethel means? It means house of God. It means house of God. And now I don't know about you guys, but the way I describe a house is a place where somebody dwells. But when I go into somebody's house, there are certain things, there are certain aspects of the house where I'm just like, oh, that has John's handmanship all over it. That has, I don't even know, that has Sarah's eye of art on it everywhere. Like that's a piece of art that only Sarah would pick up and put on there. And man, I can see the power of Jacob speaking into a situation where it seemed like it was death, where it seemed like it was so desolate and it was done for. And he said, no. This place used to be known as the place which turned away. This place used to be known as a place that was dead. But I want to rename it. I want to call it something else. I want to call it the house of God. And can I be honest with you? Like right now, I feel like I'm in a season where I'm looking for something in the middle of nothing. I feel like there's nothing around me. I don't know what's next. I don't know what God has for me next. And I feel like we're all in a very similar situation. Maybe for you, you're like, I know what's next. I know I'm going to college. I know I'm going to 9th grade. I know I'm going to be a senior this year and it's going to be the best year yet. But you don't really know what that entails. And maybe you have a negative perspective about it. Maybe you have a negative mindset about it. You're like, oh, man, I'm just ready. One more year, I'm out of this place. One more year, then it's high school. One more year, and then I get to go to college. Or maybe you're thinking, oh, this is my last summer to have fun, and I'm going to be working until I die. I don't know what your situation is. I don't know what your goals are. But a lot of times we can get lost in the desert. We can get lost looking at something, and we can start declaring it, and we can start calling it a name. But can I tell you this? The Bible talks about our tongue having the power of life and death. The things that you say matter. The things that you talk about matter. The things that you dream about, they matter. And man, I want to encourage you today, if you're discouraged, if you're walking through a season where it seems really tough, or it seems like there's no answers, just know this. Sometimes you have to just look at it and be like, I'm calling this situation good. I'm calling this situation positive. I'm calling this situation impactful. I'm calling this situation an impact point in my life because there will be a time when I'm out of this. There will be a time when I've grown up from this and I can look back and I say, I've been there before. I've been lonely before. I've been afraid before. I've been uncertain before. And I know that God met me there. And so I'm calling this moment, this is the place where God dwells. This is Bethel. Man, I pray that this week, that you guys, maybe if you've been going through that season, maybe you've been going through that time, I pray that you can rename it. I pray that you guys can find something in the middle of nothing, because it's so easy to get distracted by the desolation, by the absence of so much. But can I tell you this? Oftentimes, in the middle of nowhere, we find that God is right in the middle of it. We find that God is now here. I pray that you guys feel that this week. I pray that you guys, hopefully this changes your perspective. I love you guys so much. Let's pray. God, thank you for this moment. God, thank you for every single person that's tuning in. God, I pray that, man, this is just a message of hope. This is speaking to me too. And God, if this was just for me, I thank you for just encouraging me and loving me. But God, I pray for all my friends that are watching. Pray that they go throughout their week and they just experience you, God, that they, maybe they're in the middle of a desert, maybe they're in the middle of a dead situation. God, I pray that they can call it something else, that they can identify it. God, we love you so much. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. Thank you guys. Have an awesome week.